this episode, we're going to talk about relationships. Relationships is a key part of our life. However, in modern world, it seems as though relationships are increasingly difficult for people to maintain. Why? We have lowering birth rates, divorce culture, and more to discuss in this video. So stay tuned, and I'm going to start off with a commercial. Hey, I'm your host, Brian from Across the Culture Wars. You can support me in 3 simple steps. 1, hitting a like is free. 2, subscribing is free. 3, Cash Apps and Patreon subscription. I really appreciate it. Link in the
A major demographic shift is underway in our country. A new study from the Zucker School of Medicine finds that for the first time, minority births now make up the majority nationwide. Researchers analyzed more than 33 million births over the past 8 years. Eyewitness News anchor Sandra Bookman has a story.
White births in the U.S. have fallen below 50% for the first time ever. That's among the findings in a new study published today by professors from the Zucker School of Medicine at Hofstra Northwell. One of those researchers, Dr. Amos Grunebaum, calls it a historic milestone.
Minority women were now the majority. The majority of birth in the United States for the first time.
The study analyzed CDC data on 33 million births in the U.S., tracking trends by the mother's race and ethnicity. It revealed white births at 49.6%, while other groups taken together, including Hispanic, Black, and Asian, made up 50.4% of all births. The analysis also offered an explanation for the shifting demographics.
Among Hispanic women, they have children usually at an earlier age, and they have more children than white women have. White women usually delay childbirth. It's a known fact, and they have less children.
Coupled with well-documented disparities when it comes to maternal health for minority women and children, Dr. Grunebaum says these findings aren't just statistics. He says current efforts to restrict immigration and cut Medicaid hurt the very women keeping American births alive and growing the country.
If you really want to increase birth, if you want to have more babies, as this government has repeatedly said they want to, then we need to address these issues.
Sandra Bookman, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Okay, so if you're just joining us, we're talking about birth rates, divorce culture, and what's going on in the world today. So currently, it's estimated that in a few decades that people classified as white are going to be a minority in the United States. In the video that I just played, they talked about how the policies that are being pushed in the legislative branch is actually hurting these numbers, right? When healthcare is restricted, when DEI is challenged, and they're basically stating that women classified as white benefit more from DEI. Now, this has huge ramifications for how historically our country has been run, right? And so what does this mean for the future? Well, we're trying to answer that question in this video. We're trying to answer what does this mean? But we're not just seeing the birth rates as an issue. People coupling together is an issue across demographics, but especially in the dominant society. Now, why is this happening? Well, some people look at child support, they look at divorce culture, and they're not really willing to risk getting married. But what does this mean for the future of the United States? Now, I'm 30 years old. So if you're in my age group or older, we grew up with what? Grandparents who were married. A lot of us grew up with parents who were married. And we're starting to see people 45 and younger not getting married, having kids, but using child support really as a tool to say, hey, I take care of my kids, I'm in my kids' life, but I'm not with the mom. And this has been going on for a while, but has far-reaching consequences for the future. So we need to talk about this.
Key problem I have with marriage as it is done currently here in the West and in other places, but certainly the clay in which I work, is that there are certain promises the law can enforce, and there are certain promises it can't. So if we acknowledge, if we say the quiet part out loud, that in the majority of heterosexual marriages, the man brings protection and providing, and the woman brings kindness, warmth, and care, right? And sex. That's the economy. That's the economy. I didn't make that up. Don't get fucking mad at me in the comments. I didn't make it up. It was here before me. It's going to be here after me, I promise, right? So that's the game. That's the economy. His roles, his obligations are enforceable by law. So state power can be used to enforce his obligations, not hers. The court cannot order her to be nice to him, or to fuck him, or to stay pretty, or to stay sweet and friendly to him and kind to him, or speak nicely of him, or raise the children in a meaningful way that, creates value to him instead of teaching them to disrespect him, right? But his promises in that, shelter, food, financial obligations, court can force you to do that. And if you don't do it, they can put you in jail, or they can take away your driver's license, your professional licenses. So what is that? When you have a contract where only one side is enforceable by law under penalty of law, like that is a dangerous game to play if you're a man, period.
Most people think that child support is about helping kids. What most people don't understand is that there's an entire federal funding system behind it. Every state gets federal money for running child support enforcement programs. And the more they collect, the more funding and bonuses they receive. Let that sink in for a second. States are literally reimbursed for building systems that track, enforce, and collect child support. They also get performance bonuses based on how much money they collect and how aggressive that enforcement is. So when a case stays open, when payments go up, when arrears pile up, the system gets paid. This isn't about helping good fathers stay involved. It's about maintaining a revenue-generating program. That's why so many present fathers feel like they're treated like a paycheck instead of a parent. The system profits from conflict, not cooperation. And most dads fighting to stay in their kids' lives, they have no idea that this is happening behind the scenes. If you didn't know this, you're not alone. I want you to comment aware if more fathers need to understand the system that they're in.
Okay, so I think that this problem is a systemic problem, but I also think that it's a nuanced conversation because both parties should be treated fairly. But I think that since men and women have different roles in society, that looks different. A lot of times when we talk about equality, we immediately go to an elementary type of thinking and say, well, we should all be treated the same. No, because we all have different strengths and weaknesses, especially if you start looking around gender lines. So what have we started to see? Well, from the far right, we start seeing a big pushback on jobs, right? We see that the current administration passed laws restricting federal loans for jobs that women pursue, right? Not just women classified as white, but all women pursue, right? Nursing, healthcare, all of these types of things. And it would raise eyebrow like, wow, why are they doing that? Well, some would say they're doing that because they're trying to restrict power. The males that run society are trying to get power back. And you can see this by what's going on along with the Roe v. Wade. Why was this happening? Why did they appeal Roe v. Wade? Well, this is why they appealed Roe v. Wade.
A major demographic shift is underway in our country. A new study from the Zucker School of Medicine finds that for the first time, minority births now make up the majority nationwide. Researchers analyzed more than 33 million births over the past 8 years. Eyewitness News anchor Sandra Bookman has a story.
White births in the U.S. have fallen below 50% for the first time ever. That's among the findings in a new study published today by professors from the Zucker School of Medicine at Hofstra Northwell. One of those researchers.
So birth rates are decreasing. All right, I'm gonna slow walk this. Stay with me. So birth rates are decreasing for that particular demographic. So listen to what the professor says that the administration has done to try to restrict some of this behavior. Would you agree that in society is certain people who want control over other people? Is that too conspiratory if I say that? Like, I believe that it's people in society that seek to control other people. I think that is a factual base for that, right? We can see that, right? You can't just speed down the street if someone is going to police that. You can't just do what you want in society. It's people who exist to police that. So I'm gonna play the video.
Dr. Amos Grunebaum calls it a historic milestone.
Minority women were now the majority. The majority of birth in the United States for the first time.
The study analyzed CDC data on 33 million births in the U.S., tracking trends by the mother's race and ethnicity. It revealed white births at 49.6%, while other groups taken together, including Hispanic, Black, and Asian, made up 50.4% of all births. The analysis also offered an explanation for the shifting demographics.
Among Hispanic women, they have children usually at an earlier age, and they have more children than white women have. White women usually delay childbirth. It's a known fact, and they have less children.
Coupled with well-documented disparities when it comes to maternal health for minority women and children, Dr. Grunebaum says these findings aren't just statistics. He says current efforts to restrict immigration and cut Medicaid hurt the very women keeping American births alive and growing the country.
If you really want to increase birth, if you want to have more babies, as this government has repeatedly said they want to, then we need to address these issues.
Sandra Bookman, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Christian conservatives
so this
have
is
been
what's going
terrified
on,
about the decline in the white birth rate over the last years. Is this cultish? Let's talk about it. The same people that say that there's no hate like Christian love are the ones who call us racist when we say that we're worried about the Muslim migration and reproductive rates because we're not reproducing at a level to keep up. This isn't racism. This is coming from a place of fear for Western society. Let me explain. I've tried to stay away from political postings, if you could even consider this a political posting, because all of my points are going to be made just purely based on
I have
logic.
a question.
But I've steered away from posting that kind of content simply because I want to focus more on my walk
Why
with God,
don't
my
they
travels,
just
my
make
life,
more
whatever.
babies?
But I saw this video this girl posted, and she essentially said that she was liberal and she was watching conservative podcasts just to see kind of what they were saying. And she pointed out that conservatives in all scales are obsessed with the birth rate. And in the comments, it's, no, they're actually obsessed with the white birth rate. Cults will do that because they need more people to be able to control. And the second you're gonna call an entire political party a cult, I just kind of check out, because that's the most ridiculous shit I've ever.
See, the logic behind this to outsiders don't make much sense, because it's like, if you want more babies, go do that. Go make more babies. But babies are a responsibility, huh? Right? So, yeah, we could make more babies, but then who's going to take care of the babies? We won't be able to enjoy our life, right? And so it's kind of like a thing where having children at this point is almost against capitalism, right? So you got this live for the moment now culture. And people are delaying childbirth, especially within the dominant society. And it's interesting to see this play out. And then you have a lot of these divorce attorneys out here that's making a killing, right? They're taking people's livelihoods, child support agencies taking money out of people's pockets. Now, we all know how this affects people of color, but I don't think people pay attention to how this affecting the people people were classified as white. I don't think that people just sit back and look at that. That's what I pay attention to. I say, okay, how is this affecting them? And this is how it's affecting them.
In my life, there is a scale. It's not just black and white. There is a scale. But in my head, I'm thinking it's like, no, they are obsessed with the white birth rate, but not for the reasons you think. Not because it's, oh, white supremacy. But let me just explain something to you from a logical perspective. And this is again for the people who say that there's no hate like Christian love. As somebody who's genuinely studied the Bible for the last year, mind you, I've slacked for the last 3 months, but I've read the Gospels. I understand the basis of our religion. We are, as far as I know, the only religion where in our scripture it is specifically said that if the world hates you, it's okay, they hated me first, coming from our Lord and Savior. Telling us to turn the other cheek if we get slapped in the face. Telling us to love everybody. And this is where I lose a bunch of people, because you'll be like, oh yeah, it says love everyone, but then you're super judgmental. I have a baby boy on the way. If in 20 years from now he becomes a drug addict, I'm going to kick him out of my house. I'm going to send him to a rehab facility and I'm going to kick him out of my house. Not because I don't love him, but I'm also not going to enable certain behavior. That's where you guys get it mixed up. You think that love means instant acceptance, enabling, all that other stuff. That's not what love is, but I did.
The point of the matter is this. They're not having babies. Okay, and this is the reason that we see so much of the chaos and the conflicts that we see happening, because it's like, okay, why is there such a huge fight for immigration? Because one side's like, hey, if we get enough of these people to come, we could get our numbers back up. And some people are like, well, if more people come, we're going to lose even greater numbers. So some people are like, well, why don't they just get married and just live a life? Like, it's an internal conflict that people in the dominant society are having, but it affects all of us. Everyone that's not part of the dominant society, all of the others, all of the minorities. We all are on the outside of this, but we're policed because of what's going on in their households. They're not making babies, but we're the ones that's policed. So what they're aimed to do is to make resources thin, to make it harder for brown people to get resources. That's really what it's all about. And that's either true or it's false, right? And you can see within the males in the dominant society, they have this vitriol towards the women in their society. And it's very interesting. It's almost like a certain type of hate, like a burden that they feel towards it. Now, people in my society, you know, we don't really feel like that towards our women, despite the history. But the men in a society do feel that way. And before anyone says you don't know what you're talking about, listen to how this lawyer talks about marriage.
Key problem I have with marriage as it is done currently here in the West and in other places, but certainly the clay in which I work, is that there are certain promises the law can enforce, and there are certain promises it can't. So if we acknowledge, if we say the quiet part out loud, that in the majority of heterosexual marriages, the man brings protection and providing, and the woman brings kindness, warmth, and care, right? And sex. That's the economy. That's the economy. I didn't make that up. Don't get fucking mad at me in the comments. I didn't make it up. It was here before me. It's going to be here after me, I promise, right? So that's the game. That's the economy. His roles, his obligations are enforceable by law. So state power can be used to enforce his obligations, not hers. The court cannot order her to be nice to him, or to fuck him, or to stay pretty, or to stay sweet and friendly to him and kind to him, or speak nicely of him, or raise the children in a meaningful way that, you know, creates value to him instead of teaching them to disrespect him, right? But his promises in that, shelter, food, financial obligations, court can force you to do that. And if you don't do it, they can put you in jail, or they can take away your driver's license, your professional licenses. So what is that? When you have a contract where only one side is enforceable by law under penalty of law, like, that is a dangerous game to play if you're a man.
So, okay. So since you have guys that's thinking like this, you got this attorney, nice suit, talking about this, more guys are going to he's speaking to an audience. He wants people to hear him. This is a guy that sees the divorce culture. And he's like, "Yo, this is a no-win scenario." Now, here's the thing. Why would the powers that be create a culture like this? So, for years, people in the black community have been told, "Oh, you guys abandon your families, you guys this, that, and the third." But now we're seeing it affect people in the dominant society. And the tone is a little angry, isn't it? It's like, relax, pull yourself up from your bootstraps. I'm trolling, but I'm being real, right? All jokes contain some truth. The same things that was told to us when it was a systemic issue is now affecting you all. And now you guys want justice. And it's interesting. And before a person say, "I don't know what I'm talking about," I'm going to play another video.
Most people think that child support is about helping kids. What most people don't understand is that there's an entire federal funding system behind it. Every state gets federal money for running child support enforcement programs. And the more they collect, the more funding and bonuses they receive. Let that sink in for a second. States are literally reimbursed for building systems that track, enforce, and collect child support. They also get performance bonuses based on how much money they collect and how aggressive that enforcement is. So when a case stays open, when payments go up, when arrears pile up, the system gets paid. This isn't about helping good fathers stay involved. It's about maintaining a revenue-generating program. That's why so many present fathers feel like they're treated like a paycheck instead of a parent. The system profits from conflict, not cooperation. And most dads fighting to stay in their kids' lives, they have no idea that this is happening behind the scenes. If you didn't know this, you're not alone. I want you to comment aware if more fathers need to understand the system that.
So, guys, tell me, where do you see the future heading? I mean, I think it's really going to be chaotic, almost dystopian. You have people who don't really understand that marriage relationships are a part of the natural growth and development of adult humans. This is a part of how we mature, right? But I don't think that we're looking at it from that lens. I think that we're looking at it mainly through a capitalist viewpoint, like X's and O's and money signs. We're not looking at the relationships and thinking like, wow, are human how is the environment affecting the nature of humans, right? Our nature is being affected, right? So now men are not going to act the way that they would act because of the consequences that could come from their actions. And unfortunately, the system is incentivizing females to use relationships as a stepping stone to financial means. And as a result, the birth rates are decreasing. Now, I think that this creates real instability within the country. What do you think that the country is going to look like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when you have an abundance of older people and not enough young people? Regardless if they build a million robots, it's still going to be strange because we didn't grow up like that. And we take things for granted. And what are people teaching their kids? Mothers, what are you teaching your daughters and your sons? Fathers, what are you teaching your sons and your daughters? Do you talk to them about one day having a family, what it means to be a husband, what it means to be a wife? Or do you just prioritize independence over loyalty and say, "Hey, if you're unhappy, leave"? But the problem with that measure when we talk about divorce culture is that people always say, "Hey, I was unhappy, so I left." Guys, I don't understand how anybody can be happy every day. Eventually, you're going to run into some type of conflict because of the environment. And I don't think that people also realize that the relationship is not just between the two people. I also don't think people think about when does a relationship start. Let me read the comments. Someone says the YT man is one lunatic person. How you going to start a war and then play victim? Someone says birth rates decline when people not shagging. You know, birth rates do decline, but I just think that man, we wasn't having conversations like this uh decades ago. This is on a different level. You got guys don't even know how to talk to women, never had a girlfriend. You got ladies I kid you not. It's women out here, guys. I'm gonna speak on the other side of it. It's women out here, guys, that can attract a mate. It's women who want to date, who would love to be someone's woman and can't attract a mate. Women, guys, hear what I'm saying? And I know this because I've been out here in the world. It's ladies that are chronically single. It's men who want to attract a mate. Both genders experience the same thing. It's guys that would like to date, guys that would like to have relationships, but they don't know how to attract a mate. And I think that internet culture, cell phone culture has really created this conflict. I also think on a greater level, the hostility that we see on the media and the news and in the streets when we live in such a hostile environment. Now, some people would say, what do you mean we live in a hostile environment, Brian? Okay, well, when you have police officers running around the country asking people for their IDs, and if you disagree with them, you might get a pew pew. When you have schools being pew pewed, that is a hostile environment, is it not? Let's just call a spade a spade. So you have a group of males who are increasingly hostile because they can't get dates. You have guys that feel very much so emasculated because the females in their group are outpacing them economically and educationally. It's more women right now graduating college than males. Now, I have a college degree, it's sitting right there on the shelf, but a lot of guys never went to college, right? A lot of guys don't understand certain things. And so they are trying to find a way to give these guys that feel disempowered power. But I don't know if it's going to help because they're so angry. So think about this. If you get a group of guys that's angry and feel disempowered, would they not become the Proud Boys? Would they not become ICE? It's like, dang, you're a loser, essentially. You're a loser. But if you put this uniform on and you can attack women and children, now you're somebody. So I could understand why some of these guys would go that route because it's like I'm a loser. But if I allow myself to be a vessel of the supremacists and hurt brown people, I feel less emasculated. Now, some people might say, man, you're going too far. Like, it's no basis for what you're saying. It's no basis for what you're saying. Guys, think about, get out of your bubble for a second and really look at what's going on. Who makes up ICE? Who makes up the police department, right? Really just take a look. It's a lot of Latinos. They feel disempowered. They're trying to align themselves with a certain demographic. It's a lot of white T guys. They feel disempowered. They're trying to assert power, dominance. And if you don't agree with them, then you're this, that, and the third. But they never think about this. These same people are not getting in uniform to go police the schools where they're having these school pew pews. Think about this for a second. Actual children have lost their lives, but they don't go to the schools to prevent that. And I remember this was in one of the school pews, and I'm relating this to show the cowardice of these people, because you would dress up in an ICE uniform to go attack women and children primarily, but when these guys go shoot up these schools, where are you? Come on, man. This is why I say it's a bunch of losers. And if you don't understand that a lot of these people view things as though if you have it and I don't have it, then that's DEI. That's how a lot of people think. It's like, okay, if my neighbor is a black male and he has a car, a house, and a wife and a kid, imagine the mind of a supremacist, and they're thinking, wait, I am a male in a dominant society, but I don't have a wife, I don't have a job, I don't have a car in front of my house. How is this guy that I'm supposed to be better than outpacing me? It must be a conspiracy. Maybe they just have a greater work ethic than you. And then when you start to think that the birth rates are decreasing, you're like, dang, your women don't even want to give birth to your seeds. Think about that. What is it about you that got your women like they don't even want to reproduce with you? They want to make sure that you are wiped from the face of the earth, seemingly. I'm just speculating. That's what it seems like to me. But then again, what would they be birthing their kids into? If they're born females, you're telling them that they can't work certain jobs. If they're born females, you don't want them to have certain freedoms. Okay? If they're born biracial, you want them to be marginalized. You got to understand the mind of these people. The minds of these people is sick. We just got to be real. We got to call a spade a spade. There's no way else to talk about this. But their own women is refusing to reproduce with them. And I think it's because we live in a culture where the males in the dominant society can never be punished. Males in the dominant society are allowed to do outrageous things. Do you think Jeffrey Epstein and all of the things that they say about him would have been allowed to do the things he did if he was of another racial demographic? Think about this. We have a current president who had 34 felonies against him. Do you think any other male in any other demographic would allow to have 30 felonies counts against him and become president of the United States? So we have a culture where kids in the dominant society and males in the dominant society are never to be punished. They're never to be punished. They can do whatever they want to do, and it's okay. And you never see them come out and say, I did something wrong. I made a mistake. They always shift it to other people. Oh, it's these people over here. Oh, it's these people over here. And now their women are refusing to reproduce with them. You can't make this stuff up.
A major demographic shift is underway in our country. A new study from the Zucker School of Medicine finds that for the first time, minority births now make up the majority nationwide. Researchers analyzed more than 33 million births over the past 8 years. Eyewitness News anchor Sandra Bookman has a story.
White births in the U.S. have fallen below 50% for the first time ever. That's among the findings in a new study published today by professors from the Zucker School of Medicine at Hofstra Northwell. One of those researchers, Dr. Amos Grunebaum, calls it a historic milestone.
Let's talk about it. Someone says you're not talking about the BLACK babies who were aborted, 19 million, and then was like, remember Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood. Okay, but Here's the thing with that. Here's where that falls flat. And that's a travesty. It really is. But historically, people of color have been denied going to school, rights to property, free movement in society. You guys have created a prison for us, a social prison where we have been denied. We just had our first BLACK president in 2008. Okay, we are now approaching 250 years of being a country. So we know what happened to us. Everyone knows our history. We were oppressed. But why would you want a culture where people are oppressed? Why would you want to live in a world where people are oppressed? Why would you want a world where people are saying you can't even get coffee at this shop if you're not this skin color? You can't even shop here. You can't even work here. We're not hiring you. So we know what happened to us. We live in a system of economic deprivation. Economically, we have been restricted. So if you're restricted, yes, common sense is going to say it's going to make it harder for you to raise a family, and because you are so restricted. But here's the thing: when people in the dominant society, you don't have signs of saying you can't go to school. They don't have signs of saying they've been allowed to go to the universities this entire time. They've been allowed to vote, travel, move freely in society this entire time. So now when you're in the modern world and seeing like, dang, most of these people are living below the poverty line. Most of these people are not doing that great. You're like, dang. And they didn't have to go against Jim Crow. They didn't have to live in segregated communities. They've been free this entire time. And they're still mediocre for the most part. And I've been all across this country so I could speak on it. I've been all over the United States so I could speak on it. I really know how people live. You know what I'm saying? And I know that is millions of people classified as WHITE who are struggling, who come from broken homes. And so now when you see that women don't even really want to reproduce with them, it's like, whoa. Whoa, their women don't even want to reproduce with them. And you know what Becky's going to do once she gives her some money? See, here's the thing. In the past, it was easier to police the women in the dominant society because you guys had them so restricted. They couldn't even vote. They couldn't even vote. Think about this. That blows my mind. Like, how the woman that you sleeping in the bed with, having your kids, you're in the same struggle with, she can't even have a say-so. That's how these guys think. But you got to understand the history of Europe. And if you understand the history of Europe, then it would make more sense. A lot of people don't know the history of Europe. Think about this. Have we ever had a female pope? Will we ever have a female pope? Probably not. Why? Because that's not the culture. They come from a patriarchal society where men are up here and women are down here. That's European culture. Okay? They don't even value women past the age of 30. This is their words. Look at Greek culture. Look at Roman culture. Look at who they worshiped. They worship male deities, right? I mean, I don't want to get too deep, but if you get deep enough, it kind of become chromoerotic, if you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying? So, women in their society have been devalued, especially once they get a certain age. That's how they think. Men in the dominant society. Oh, she's 30. Oh, she's 35. Oh, she's 40. Oh, she's washed up. That's how they think. So they don't really value their women. And they kind of have a fetish of very young women. And this goes into the Jeffrey Epstein situation. Why hasn't Jeffrey Epstein and those associated with him been punished? Because the rules of the game is men in the dominant society are able to do whatever they want to do. Why? Because they said so.
shown.
Minority women were now the majority. The majority of birth in the United States for the first time.
The study analyzed CDC data on 33 million births in the U.S., tracking trends by the mother's race and ethnicity. It revealed white births at 49.6%, while other groups taken together, including Hispanic, Black, and Asian, made up 50.4% of all births. The analysis also offered an explanation for the shifting demographics.
Among Hispanic women, they have children usually at an earlier age, and they have more children than white women have. White women usually delay childbirth. It's a known fact, and they have less children.
Coupled with well-documented disparities when it comes to maternal health for minority women and children, Dr. Grunebaum says these findings aren't just statistics.
So someone says, you sound stupid. What about a lot of ICE agents, or you know what you got to say about that? Well, I would say, and I talked about that earlier, you might have came later in the stream. I say that